Welcome to Joe's Astrology. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, check out my videos. I have hundreds of videos on astrology, learning astrology, and birth chart analysis of famous YouTubers and famous people. And today is April 5th, 2024, Friday, and Venus just went into Aries, which I'm going to speak about primarily in this video. I'm going to read some excerpts from a book that I have uh, on astrology. It's a little bit deep. So if you're into deep things, uh, this could be an interesting episode for you. We see with Venus just going into Aries, we have now a stellium in Aries, we have a stellium in Pisces, and Uranus just moved to 21 degrees of Taurus. And I think with all this Aries and the moon just went into Pisces, people are going to start thinking about taking action on their imaginations. And I say thinking because most people will not take action, or they might begin to take action, but we know usually how it goes. When these energies shift, they'll move on to something else. So let's look into this Venus in Aries. And I just did it's interesting this comes up because I just did the birth chart for Dr. Romani, who claims to be the narcissistic psychologist. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's very interesting how she claims to be, or she's known as the narcissistic psychologist, and it's definitely seen in her chart as well. And here, this is from Pluto Volume 2 of Jeffrey Wolf Green's book. And if you don't know Jeffrey Wolf Green, I would definitely get to know him if you are into astrology. It says here, the Venus and Aries person will be quite narcissistic, self-orientated, and feel within themselves that they are quite special. They will feel some undefined special destiny to fulfill, which requires a fundamental independence in order to actualize it. And this is actually something we see with with fire signs in general. Like if you see a ninth house Pluto or a first house Pluto, even though it's not a fire sign, that having Pluto in the first house, you'll see this idea that the person at some point or at some level in life, they feel that they are special, or they might know that they aren't. They might show to the public in their relationships that they're not, that they're just like everybody else. But deep down, they actually think that they're special and that they're different from the general population. It says here, this is a relationship book, so it gets into how these people never fully commit themselves to another person, always keeping a deep part of their inner self isolated from the relationship. And I think this is okay, and this is what you see in a lot of relationships where people would try to hide this. And then when it comes out, it can make for big problems in a relationship. Where someone with a Venus, a very aware and conscious person with Venus in Aries, this isn't going to be as much of a problem. But the problem is when you're unaware of it and you're becoming aware of it, and both parties don't know how to handle it, and then it can become very problematic if if both parties aren't able to work through it. And I think when you start calling people narcissistic, I'm speculating here, but with the work that Dr. Romani does, when both parties start to call, or when someone starts to call the other person narcissistic, and if it's not exactly the full picture, I think it can become a problem. And this is what I talk about with, I did a video on narcissism. It's just the idea that this word has become popular. I'm not sure if it's really telling the full story. Because if this is the case, and the Venus and Aries person is really just, or the fire sign in general, is really just displaying this special destiny that they feel like they have to fulfill. And it's coming out in different ways, and people don't know how to navigate it. They don't know how to decipher it. It can cause a lot of problems, and of course you could consider the person to be, once it starts to cause problems, you can consider the person to be narcissistic. And in reality, the parties involved, including the psychologist, don't really know what's going on at a deeper level, because the person, without knowing astrology, the person isn't really aware of it themselves, so they're not giving the psychologist the information that they need to make a proper assessment. They seem fully, so I continue, they seem fully committed through displays of intense, passionate energy and of a very creative nature, which keep the relationship moving forward. Now, I mentioned this as well in another video, talking about relationships and men and women, and how men will think of Venus and Aries. Okay, you could have Venus, of course, you can have Venus and Aries, but Aries being ruled by Mars and being very masculine and kind of representative of the collective. You could say it's kind of, if you look at the collective man, it can be representative as the majority of people majority of men have this strong Mars expression, this Aries expression, regardless of who they are. And women have this strong Venus expression. So when we look at what was the statement that was just said there, that they often display intense, passionate energy of creative nature, which keep the relationship moving forward. I talk about this in my other video, in Men versus Women, that men will do this regardless of if they have Venus and Aries, that they will get very creative in like giving gifts, etc., to keep the relationship. And I've seen this. I'm not going to mention it. I don't think the person would see this video, but I've seen this in extreme ways. You can use your imagination. But I've seen how men will use this in extreme ways to keep the relationship going. Now, of course, this is where the narcissism will come in, that when that person, it says here, the person will cyclically withdraw the energy when they instinctively feel that they have become too involved, too caught up in the relationship in such a way that their need for independent actualization of their sense of special destiny is threatened. So, of course, this is where you can really see a narcissistic person, where they will go to those extremes to keep the relationship going, but then once their special destiny is threatened, they will withdraw, and the other person will wonder why the gifts and the things like that are no longer coming. And the person, in their sense of when they really feel that they're threatened, then of course they'll take action and break up the relationship, etc. And it kind of goes along. It just goes along with that idea of being selfish, and it's all about me and what I want. And day to day, month to month, year to year, I'm going to do what I feel is what I feel most strongly about. Because again, this person feels as if they have a special destiny, so that their life is more important than others. And if they definitely sense that with the people around them, they will, they're just going to do what they want to do. It says here that because they feel inwardly that they are special, they need to be treated as special by other people. Conversely, they can make the person that they are with feel incredibly special, pumping the other person up with intense displays of love and energy. So that kind of goes along with what I was saying, that they are very passionate people, and just the fire signs in general can be very passionate. And really, it always comes down to awareness. If you're aware of these things and you can make fun of them and keep them in perspective, they aren't really problematic. It's when people are unaware of what's going on and they kind of blow things out of proportion and make them into something that they're not, or that when they really can have take like a Venus and Aries person. If you really like this person, and you have some distance between the two, and it's not like the relationship isn't everything to you in your life, you can kind of step back and let them be who they are. Let them be the narcissist if it's not hurting anybody. And they're still essentially there. They're still in the picture. I've seen this Venus and Aries in my life. I've seen, as I mentioned, I think it's happening a lot with a lot of people, but I've seen it where you can just see in the future that the relationships are going to have issues. These issues are going to come up for sure. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I mean, he claims here the basic pattern of the Venus and Aries person is one of a narcissistic self-involvement in which everything, including other people, must serve their own purposes for self-actualization. So you can see how this can definitely create problems in relationships. Let's see what else we have here. I mean, the Venus and Aries person can be very competitive as well. So you can see how they're naturally going to do these things in order to maintain their consistency in their life, maintain their identity. I think I will leave it there for now. Tomorrow I will talk more. About the Pisces moon and the Pisces moon Mars Saturn conjunction that we're going to have as Mars moves closer to Saturn. And I hope this finds you well and you have a great day.